talk about ice because it's cold as ice outside. Nothing in particular, just some knowledge if you're interested. I like to try and share anything I've learned. One of my favorite websites is the Government of Canada website, latest ice conditions. U.S. National Ice Center is another really good one. The maps aren't as great, but one of my favorite things about it is it has an archive of past years. The Canadian one pops out maps pretty regularly, especially when ice is rapidly forming in areas. Some of my favorite products are this one. This is January 3rd. It's recent ice map of the Great Lakes. Fast ice is solid ice. It's not really going anywhere. These fractions are pretty interesting, especially as it relates to bird life or birding. Red is considered to be, oh, no, continue session. Red is considered to be solid, even though it's not completely solid and it moves around. And as you get less and less, essentially you have these big areas that are completely open. I find this interesting because if you're in Goderich and you looked offshore, you'd say, hey, the lake is completely frozen. When in reality, there's huge amounts of open water. And if you see areas where it has this, 50% ice coverage, gulls and bald eagles and mergansers and things love ice. So there's potential for interesting things to be going on there. Another interesting graphic that they produce for Hudson James Bay, January 1st, is this sort of extent of the ice formation, or sort of the stage that it's at. So this is considered to be frozen solid, but you can see there's sort of different classifications for the ice. I find this one interesting. Gray ice is 10 to 15 centimeters, gray-white is 15 to 30 centimeters, and then once you have thick ice above 30 centimeters, you still have that thin, medium, and thick, which go from 30 centimeters to 70 centimeters to greater than 120 centimeters for thick first year. We won't see that thick first year till later in the winter, especially if it's cold. You can see there's already a bit of medium forming in the north. When I use these ice maps, especially locally, I like to take the wind into consideration. A day like today where the wind is really strong out of the north, even though the ice isn't fast ice, it's being pushed against the shore by a strong north wind, around Pine Provincial Park today. And odds are it's going to be pretty thick and birds aren't really going to be able to take advantage of it. North shore of Lake Erie, on the other hand, is likely going to have ice being pushed offshore, so they have potential for pockets of open water to form where there may not have been any in recent days. Dead fish and things that get trapped into that ice attract more gulls and eagles and whatever to it. Even talking about completely frozen over, so this is a satellite image. They don't put these out all that often, but it shows James Bay completely frozen over in February of 2017 when in reality, you can see there's a lot of open water. It's certainly not a percentage of James Bay that's open, but if you've ever wondered where these common eiders and black guillemots and things spend the winter out there, there's definitely places for them to go. Some of these features like Polinias are open all the time, but a lot of these aren't necessarily. If you had a strong west wind, you're going to have open water along the edge of the fast ice. If you're on shore, you wouldn't see anything out there because it would be a little too far away. It's 10, 20 kilometers offshore, but if there's ever a way to get out there in like a plane or helicopter or something, and if you ever want to do it, let me know. So it's just some basic ice knowledge. It's not really that important, but it might help you plan a birding day in the future. If you want to stick around for a couple of minutes for a little eco-justice or whatever you want to call it. I'll talk about a couple of the big buzz things with ice in general. One of them is multi-year ice. So yes, Hudson and James Bay freezes every winter. But one thing we're seeing huge changes in the extent of second, third, and fourth year ice in the high Arctic. It's decreasing in both extent and volume quite significantly. At some point, you're going to reach a tipping point that I don't really know what's going to happen, but it's not good. How you present that information is always pretty interesting to me. This is from the American page that I had up early. In the past year, for reasons I won't get into, somebody's decided to change this graphic, whereas before it showed the extent of ice in the Arctic throughout the melting season on a year-by-year basis. So this graphic was just covered in squiggly lines, and it was painfully obvious to see that all of the most recent squiggly lines were at the extreme southern extent of ice formation, whereas now we just have this 10-year maximum and an average, and it doesn't look all that alarming in this state, even though some of these points show you that you had less ice at this state than you've ever had in the satellite record-keeping era. It definitely goes both ways. You don't see a lot of climate change articles talking about how much ice we've lost since the past glacial maximum. So the best you can hope to do is have people out there collecting lots of information. The more information you have, the better decisions you can make. Even that is extremely difficult to do when you have people in government in the past who deleted massive amounts of climate data. But do the best you can do. If you just want to learn a little bit more about ice, I hope that this video helped, and no matter what, you'll see something cool. That's what's so great about birding. So even if it's frozen all the way to the horizon, you're going to see cool stuff. That's it. I hope to see you back when it warms up again and we can talk about migration and more exciting things.